Hello everyone, we're all here. Andy just about. We're just leaving Old Trafford, as you can see. We've just finished recording the podcast. For people who are watching this on YouTube, this is what we used to do. We used to gather after the game in the press box and chew the fat over what's just happened. And we used to miss out really obvious things like Diogo Dalot scoring his first ever goal for Manchester United in the Premier League at Old Trafford, which was a bit of a glaring error, wasn't it?
Yes, because he certainly celebrated it with vigour and passion. I think he did a C in celebration. I think that's for his wife, who is pregnant, Claudia.
Or daughter, Clara.
Oh, so maybe both?
Yeah.
Okay, I like it, okay. And so, yeah, but listen, it was a moment at that point in the game. I think United were actually doing all right. You know, they had built up a bit of head of steam at the end of the first half and then started the second half, and they were kind of getting men forward. So, yeah, they couldn't hold on to it though. So that's, I guess, the overriding theme from the game.
Yeah, it felt like a night for broad topics. We got into a lot of them. So enjoy an old school Talk the Devils podcast, however you're listening or watching. Cheers. This is Talk the Devils, the athletic show dedicated to Manchester United. Here we are back to the old school, inside Old Trafford, for a post-match podcast. But unfortunately, it's not a great European night. It's not a win. It's not a great night of any sort, really, to reflect on. It's another disappointing result, an opportunity missed. We'll get into all the details of the draw with West Ham. We'll also look ahead to Wolves towards the end of the show as well. Carl, Laurie and Andy, all here with me. Andy's even been delivered a packet of sweets to cheer him up. You look miserable, mate.
I'm frustrated. I think all United fans will be after that, because it's more points dropped at home following on after the defeat at home to Everton last week. I'm frustrated because United could keep jumping up the table and it's just not quite happening. Is this normal life for a team who are 7th and 8th? Is this what happens? I don't really like it. There's another game where United drew, having been in a winning position. Not that I ever felt they looked really comfortable in a winning position.
You've not even thanked Isaac here for the sweets.
Oh yeah, thanks for the sweets, mate.
Do we not need to give a bit of context? So we're in the press box here, and Isaac, who'd just been in the director's box, gave us his sweets that they get given with the very nice posh seats that they get. And he said, apologies that I'm in the prawn sandwich brigade, but I do love the podcast, so thank you for listening to us and giving us the sustenance that Andy is still chewing through. You're still chewing through the fat of that game, and you're still trying to get your teeth through this gobstopper, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it is like going back in time, being in here eating sweets. It's just the fact that you feel like you've seen this game a few times already, even this season, let alone in past campaigns. Ruben Amorim, the most frustrated I think I've seen him in a press conference, Carl. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's the angriest I've seen him. He was knocking things back when he was asked certain questions about attacking substitutions. That carried on into the embargo section, which you'll be able to listen to and watch at 1 o'clock on Friday as well. This is frustrating. This is annoying. This is why Ruben Amorim refuses to get dragged into any conversation about the Champions League and just gives an answer of Europe when asked about objectives. This is why Mason Mount said Europe on a US tour. No one at Manchester United has mentioned Champions League football this season, because I think quite a few of them are aware of the difference between their top level and when things go even 30% off it, you end up with a team that will finish closer to 8th and they will finish closer to 5th. I think the annoyance isn't necessarily the fact that we all know the squad has 2 or 3 deficiencies, but also this is happening at a time where the rest of the Premier League looks really volatile. No one thought Liverpool would be this poor. No one thought Brighton or Bournemouth or the other teams would go through these little bits of turbulence. So 5th feels on, and yet United can't capitalise. And that's the annoying bit, in that maybe, possibly, with just this or with that, and we keep getting all these email questions of, do you think with this, like 2 or 3 changes, Champions League could really be on? And the answer to that is no, because you get performances like that at Old Trafford against West Ham far too often to say United are favourites to be considered for Champions League football.
This is how it feels to be 8th, to be honest. I mean, United have had the opportunity in recent weeks to climb up into the top 4, top 5, top 2, I think it was at one point. Each time they've had that opportunity, they've ended up with a result which has meant they've missed the opportunity to climb, and they're 8th again.
Even if they'd won tonight, it would have felt, a sort of 3 points gained by sort of, the slenderest of margins, really. It wasn't
That would have been okay, though, wouldn't it?
That would have been fine, and I suppose there's a value to seeing out a game at 1-0.
Keeping a clean sheet.
Yeah, 7th game in a row where they haven't. I mean, they've obviously only kept 1 clean sheet all season, St. Lamens' debut against Sunderland, and that is alarming when, you do have more often than not, sort of, 3 outright central defenders or 5 defensive-minded players. It's sort of it's a strain to see United not be able to manage those kind of games. And I mean, they were doing okay, I suppose, at 1-0. Like, it felt like they could get through it, but that's probably a mark of West Ham being a pretty poor team themselves rather than United being anything defensively sound. And then it was a long ball. That's what Amorim sounded particularly frustrated about, that they hadn't handled that well. So it's a long kick by Areola. Casemiro misjudges it. It goes past Lenny Yoro, and then Mazraoui, gives away. Well, he stops Bowen with the cross. It's a good challenge from Mazraoui, but that's the corner that then they score from. And I think he was. I wasn't here for the Brighton press conference after he went into the dressing room, unusually for him, and ended up damaging a TV. And he referenced that in the press conference just now. So I don't know if that was perhaps more angry, but it certainly, this one was. You could sense the kind of simmering fury that he had within, because the first question was basically, how do you feel after that, and he said it's frustration, it's angry, that's it, and kind of no more punctuation mark. And
not
then,
like him to give an answer that short, is it?
No, exactly, particularly in the immediate aftermath of the game where he's got all these emotions and he's kind of thinking about the game and what went wrong or what went right in it, and he's very, very emotive, isn't he? He did get into that kind of territory. There was more questions asked, and like I say, he was asked about, have you gone into the dressing room and kind of given them a rollicking, basically. He said, no, I try and stay consistent on that in terms of consistently out of the dressing room. There was one time that I didn't, and sort of with a bit of a wry smile. But certainly there was. It was tense. He came back at a few journalists. He was asked about the attacking substitutions, and Kobbie Mainoo not coming on. I think that's a glaring one that we kind of need to get into a bit more detail. But he said, who would I have brought on, basically? Could you really have put Shea Lacey on? Now, I've got friends that are United fans that would say, yeah, put him on and try. You never know, change the shape a little bit. Let's see. At 1-1, this is we're talking about, rather than Martinez for sure. So
I think he feels too vulnerable to do it.
Yeah, but I think generally he thinks, I've got established players that I have to go with first, and if I then sort of try and risk it with an academy player like Sir Alex used to do, Sir Alex was doing that from a position of strength, as you say, trying to win titles, and with a group of players that knew what it was to incorporate a young player into the team. Doing it in this situation, it's a tough ask for a young player, an 18-year-old to make the debut in that way. I think you could question the Ugarte introduction. I mean, every time he's come on this season or when he started, it's not worked. It's been really bad. It's crazy, the consistency on that word again, that has been poor from his input necessarily, and maybe it's not always just on him, but it's this. Yeah, we could go through the games where he's come on and it's then gone the other way for United. So I think perhaps you could evaluate that, because I could sort of see the sort of logic in a lot of the subs. Heaven was having a difficult game, sure.
Well, my question, we were talking to Critch in the press conference before it started, or the press conference room before the press conferences started, Andy, and when the subs were made, it's all right us stood here now saying, why were those changes made? Why didn't you bring Kobbie Mainoo on? But actually, when they were being made, it didn't feel that bad, did it? Or am I being unfair or giving too much allowance there?
No, because United were winning, and you could say that he was trying to see out the game. And in the manager's eyes, the best version of Ugarte is steady. He brings aggression, and then we see what we see with our own eyes. Mount came on. There are also players who are coming on because they've lost a place in the team because they've not been playing well. And you sort of refute tonight. Kunyuru started, so he's coming back in after an injury, works hard off the ball, but didn't have a great game. And you can excuse him because he's been out. You've got players like Yoro coming on because he's lost his place in the team. And too many players are making mistakes throughout the whole game. And it's pretty boring, when you watch it. I'm sat here thinking, it's not that entertaining watching Manchester United, and that worries me.
That's with just one attacking injury as well, isn't it? With Benjamin Sesko missing.
Yeah.
It's not like they've got vast swathes of first choice forwards out of the picture.
No. And West Ham had key players missing. Probably their best player, Paquetá, was missing. They've won one away game all season. This is not a strong West Ham team, and yet it's a West Ham team who've beaten United in 4 of the 5 previous games. So United are consistently poor against some teams who they've always put out of sight. I think there's a problem scoring goals. I thought Mbeumo's top scorer with 6, and then Casemiro with 3 goals. There's a real lack of goals, isn't there? Not quite happening for Cunha. It's just frustrating watching it. You feel it. You do a booze at the end of the game.
Again.
But then again, there are also chants for Amorim when the team's winning.
I think tonight as well, I don't know what you think, Carl, but it also felt like everyone shared the frustration. The manager was certainly frustrated, the head coach. I spoke to Mazraoui after the game. I can't tell you what he said, but it wasn't broadcastable. He was clearly frustrated, and that reaction at the end of the game, not quite as strong as the Everton one, but still clear boos. A lot of frustration in this place.
Yeah. Andy once said, your football team is where everyone comes to have a big collective moan. And it definitely
or
felt...
a collective groan on the final whistle.
It felt like that one today. That felt like a fumble, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it was another opportunity, like we're saying, and it's against a West Ham side who dropped into the bottom 3 after the results at the weekend. United go up to 5th if they win. They're level on points with 4th place. You're beginning to be a bit more optimistic. The fixtures come in again, look presentable, but they're not taking the opportunities.
They're not. I think I said a couple of weeks ago, I need to stop looking at the live table. You have to slap me.
I do the same.
I've got to stop doing this now because I'm setting myself up for disappointment. But
he told you a few weeks ago, don't do it.
No, I've got to stop doing it. I'm really, really sorry. Anyone listening to this, no more live table looking at. No more, United could go this high if they get a result. You need to get the results first. Because this team needs to start doing the basics well. They're far too inconsistent on simple things. Even 5-10 yard passes, the ball bobbles. It doesn't quite stick. The first touch isn't the way you want it to be. It's those little bits that are quite confusing, in that this is a team that has 1 game a week. Surely they should have more solid foundations than what we're talking about. We're talking about what attacking changes could he be making? And only Sesko's injured. Are we that low already? Are they? This is a very unstable Jenga tower. How? Why? This shouldn't be so fallible, soft. I don't even know the correct word for this. I know this team wasn't good last season, but there was such optimism before a ball was kicked.
There's more potential in this team than they're showing. And the P word is often bounded around when you're trying to see the positive in it, and it's difficult at the minute to see the positive in it because it feels like a broken record already.
Not too long ago, I was listening to BBC Radio Manchester, and Gaz Drinkwater asked a little tongue-in-cheek question about how we always talk about, are United back? And he said, after a disappointing result, maybe that's the back. When United are back, it's because when they play badly, not the back in that they're actually good and competent, and it's the Fergie times coming back. And I was like, oh no, am I just looking at this all wrong? Do I have to flip it upside down? If you're consistently inconsistent, are you just an average team?
But there are bits that are better still, aren't there? I mean, the last couple of weeks, Crystal Palace was a positive, clearly, but obviously the goals there come from set plays. It's not open plays, it's not chance creation. And Mbeumo looks like he's stepped back a little bit. Cunha certainly wasn't at his best tonight. But they didn't lose.
They didn't. The first half at Palace was appalling, but they still won the game.
They started slow again tonight as well, didn't they?
Yes, they started very slow tonight. Casemiro did that slide, which looked like it was in slow motion to make a block after 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then
That's because it was in slow motion.
Yeah. Ayden Heaven,
to be fair.
Yeah, it did work.
I mean, he started sliding before the guy had even got the ball, but still.
He started sliding at kick-off, I think.
Ayden Heaven was booked after 7 or 8 minutes. Yeah. I was worried about him, watching him.
Do you know that's a huge call to stick him in that position anyway, wasn't it? He put a lot of trust into it.
And I thought his positioning was questionable.
He's not played that role before in the first team in the Premier League.
Yeah, and it showed. And it was Connor Wilson was decent.
Callum Wilson wasn't bad either.
Yeah. As soon as I said the word Connor then, I knew I'd said it wrong.
I'm glad.
Callum, Yeah.
You're going to say that Ian Irving took the corner that West Ham scored from, aren't you?
As soon as I saw that West Ham had a player called Freddie Potts, I thought, I bet he's a Cockney. So I Googled, where's he from? And
his dad's on the coaching staff, used to play for West Ham as well.
Right. Yeah, of course he did.
Yeah.
Potts, and he's like, yeah, born within the sound of the Bow Bells, would have been a market trader if he'd not become a professional footballer. Apples and pears.
That's bang on.
Goes, is that right?
That's a bang on.
Bang on Cockney accent.
Bang on.
Stop talking when the microphone's not in your face.
And then, to be fair to Ayden Heaven, he did steady it, because when I saw Lenny Yoro warming up after half an hour, I thought Ayden's going to be substitute.
He was warming up after 10 minutes.
Right. So he did get to half time. He did improve. He's not going to forget today. What you angling for some positives? There are a few, but I keep coming back to this point. Maybe this is just life when you're 7th and 8th. Maybe this is what happens. You get a good win at Palace, and it's up and down all the time, but it's so frustrating because no other team is winning. We were at Anfield last night, weren't we? There's only Arsenal who are getting a real run together. Well, actually, they're even dropping points. I just feel massive levels of frustration, and I'm unconvinced watching United. At 1-0, they still look vulnerable, even against the worst teams in the league.
You say that first half an hour was, pretty boring, and I was... I thought it was turgid. I thought it was a really strange start again from United. It got to the point where me and Critch were just making jokes about Andrew Kitchen, the referee, and saying, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen, Andrew. And
must have took you a while to come up with that.
Kitchen nightmares. I was thinking kitchen nightmares when he didn't send Aaron Wan-Bissaka off, to be fair.
Kitchen nightmares. I thought you were doing some sort of Gordon Ramsay thing, because I've got you in my ear going, why'd you keep bringing up kitchen nightmares? What?
He's only 29, that ref,
I know, fair enough. It's his fifth game as a referee.
In the Premier League.
In the Premier League, sorry. Obviously,
They've not just found him on a park on a Sunday morning. Don't you fancy it?
Well, when he didn't send Aaron Wan-Bissaka off to finish my point,
Right.
I mean, that is just obviously, it's not his second booking, but okay, fine, whatever. It's obviously, it's not all about him. I just wanted to try and, brighten the mood a little bit by telling Carl why he was trying to write a briefing on the whistle note, and he's got me jabbering in his ear, talking absolute inanities.
He's used to that, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah. On the Ayden Heaven point, I mean, it's his fourth game of the season, first start in the Premier League of the season. The game he started was Grimsby, and I think he came off at half time in that, potentially.
I think it's his third Premier League start ever.
Right.
7th Premier League senior team appearance. When United unveiled their brand new home kit, spoke to Phil Jones, spoke to Wes Brown, asked them loads of questions about all the centre-backs. The one thing Phil Jones brought up was when the middle centre-back role, how important communication is. So it's often described as the middle centre-back has the other two on a string. You're very often saying you need to push, you need to press, you need to do certain movements. And you stay central and you move them. And in the first 10 minutes, I'm watching Ayden Heaven look left and right to Shaw and Mazraoui, and he was very much going, okay, I've got to move in relation to where you're stood. And that's hard. It's really hard being a young man in quote-unquote a veteran's position. And I think that's why you had Casemiro do sort of that very pronounced slide tackle to prevent the cutback, because Heaven's not in the correct position for a middle centre-back. I think that's also why he gets booked really, really early on, because he's making Heaven is a very aggressive defender. I mean that as a compliment. He's got that sort of Harry Maguire, the ball goes past you or the man goes past you, but not both, and he'll put you down early. And he grew into the game slowly, but I'm not sure whether or not centre-back is the best role for him at that point in time, because you've got to be Kobbie. You've got to know exactly where your positioning is. And it was a bit of an inversion of he's looking to the two people outside of him going, where should I be stood? Whereas ideally you want De Ligt, you want Maguire, you want someone else being stood there going, you shift, because I want to stay here and cover this position. But
it needs must though, isn't it? With De Ligt missing tonight, hopefully he's back for Wolves. Obviously Harry Maguire missing as well. Normally they would be the ones who play that middle role. I wonder if it was protecting Lenny Yoro a little bit as well, considering the issues that he's had in the last couple of matches, to then ask him to play as the middle centre-back. All the things you've just talked about then coming into play when maybe he's not at his most confident.
I've got a couple of bits of feedback outside the ground for this podcast today. One gentleman said we're too negative, and another gentleman said were too positive. Unfortunately, they didn't come at exactly the same time, where you could have just sent them away. Been a bit of a
provide balance.
Got a message last night saying you've been very irresponsible, saying that Remi Moses is alive. He's died, and I'm like, he hasn't.
That was a very strange thing that happened this week.
It was very strange, and I'm not saying this lightheartedly. You know, I saw people discussing the death of a Man United midfielder, and I checked it out properly and quickly established that he hadn't died, and I tweeted that out. And then 6 or 7 hours later, I got a message from Greece saying I've been irresponsible because he has died. I suspect that someone has been pretending to be him who has passed away in Greece. And I said to that person, look, do you want me to arrange for some of his family members to talk to you and you can discuss whether he's dead or alive? Utterly bizarre, mate. Utterly bizarre. You know, someone has died here, but it's not Remi Moses. And that just goes around the internet, pings around.
It's good to hear that he's very much alive and well, and it was good to hear that you managed to track him down as well, because it's an ambition of yours. Have you got any closer to interviewing him?
I haven't tracked him down. I've just established that he's alive and well. I mean, I know what he does and who his family are, and I just don't think he ever wants any media coverage, and we've got to respect that. I don't have a problem with that. And, you know, I know of him. I know people who know him, but he just don't want to be in the papers or whatever he calls them. That's fine.
Let's just for the younger listeners listening to this podcast, could you explain Remi Moses' importance to Manchester United?
That's a good question, actually. He's the first black player to score for Manchester United, and he comes from Miles Platting, which is a very working class area of North Manchester. And he came with Brian Robson, who was the most expensive British player when he came here in '81. And Remi was, you know, Robbo was the big star, the captain of England, but Remi also played for England and more than held his own in Man United's midfield. Bit of a cool lad, big afro. People really loved him. At a time when it was very difficult for black players. You know, that generation got racially abused, and he just came in and he looked like the boy. And people really liked him. He had a lot of injuries that affected him a lot. And he doesn't get spoken about because he has decided, which is his right, to lead a very, very private life. So that is who he is. He's worth checking out. Unfortunately, you can't read that much about him.
Laurie, let's come back to the conversation about Kobbie Mainoo if we can. I mean, he was asked repeatedly, Amorim, in the press conference about the underuse of Mainoo. He didn't seem to like the questions. That was part of the frustration. Where's this going?
Well, I changed my mind on what happens in January a little bit each week, because I think he's definitely going to go, because how can he not? He's going to ask to go. He will do again. He has to, because he's not getting any minutes. If he can see what's out there, I think he wants to go abroad. If he does go somewhere, that's what he did in the summer. So that would be his instincts, to my understanding. Will the club let him go? Now, actually, the club might in this situation, because if he's not playing, he's just on the bench. In the value, if you then are thinking about selling him, if Amorim is going to be the long-term head coach, then you're going to have to adjust that, right? Like, you know, by giving him game time and letting him go. But then that would mean them having to bring somebody else in, because I know that he's not playing, but at the same time, as we've already discussed, Amorim's options on the bench are very minimal. I mean, Kobbie's your kind of only other one that's with an attacking slant to it that you could have sent on. I just think it's really bizarre that he doesn't feature him at all. He basically says he's the alternative to Bruno. He reiterated that tonight. So Bruno plays all the time. Ugarte is the alternative to Casemiro. That's it, basically.
But he pushed Bruno into the 10 tonight, which I can't remember him doing much, if at all, in recent weeks. So that would have been the opportunity to put Kobbie in Bruno's position in those two deeper midfield positions, wouldn't it?
Yeah, do you think he pushed him, or do you think Bruno just decided to go there? I don't know. I wasn't watching it as closely as you. Maybe you picked up on something that I didn't quite detect. But yeah, I don't know how this ends. Clearly, there's a reason why he doesn't think he's, you know, good enough to be pushing. He's mentioned Bruno having to rotate next season, but it feel like could you not? Bruno is such an important player, I get that, but Kobbie, it seems just such a waste of his talent to not be featuring at all in these situations. And he wasn't even sure about what it would mean for AFCON, you know, when Mbeumo and Ahmad go, and you're clearly thinking that's an opportunity that surely he'll get minutes there, like surely.
We haven't even got a date for AFCON properly confirmed. I mean, there was that announcement from FIFA which made it seem like they were going to be available for the next two matches, but now it sounds like there's only the guarantee that they'll be available for Wolves.
Yeah, I mean, you're the boy on this. I thought they were all right for Wolves, but or rather, yeah, for Wolves and Bournemouth, right? But you kind of threw a little bit of a spanner in my workings there. So I would imagine they're going to try and push this as much as they can, and whether they can have some kind of individual negotiations with the nations, and they're kind of okay with it, because given they're such big players for those countries, whether they'd say, okay, fine, if that's what you want to play for your club again. I don't know, but yeah, it's unideal situation when they are getting by in these games, when it's not like they're creating lots of chances and they're being unlucky. It's 1-1. Yeah, it felt sort of okay, really. That felt like a fair enough result. I don't mean okay from a United point of view. I just mean from
a fair reflection.
Yeah.
Too many players dropping 6 out of 10 performances, and then you end up with a 6 out of 10 team. Yeah. To go out and Mainoo, I don't think Manchester United under Ruben Amorim is the best place for him. Right? If Mainoo somehow made contact with me, or I was in Mainoo's team, I'd honestly be telling him to seek pastures elsewhere in January, if on a loan or a permanent deal, because whatever Amorim wants from a central midfielder is not compatible with the things Mainoo is good at, and Mainoo is unlikely to improve dramatically and change that between now and January. So you've got a career. These careers can be very short. They can be curtailed or twisted on a bounce of a ball and a strange injury. While you have the ability to play football, which he certainly does, he should try and pursue that elsewhere. And I hate myself for saying that about an academy player of that talent. But this club under this head coach is not the best place for Mainoo, and I don't think it would be wrong of me to suggest he should continue to sit here and wait for his turn, because that turn doesn't seem like it's going to come anytime soon.
In fairness, Andy, I thought Laurie earlier made a great point as well. The longer that he's not involved with the Manchester United starting picture, the more he is devalued, isn't he? And if the club are going to use him as someone like they've done with others to put money back into the coffers to spend on other transfers, the more he's devalued, the less capability there is to take advantage of selling someone who would really upset Manchester United fans if he was to leave.
Great point by Laurie. I've shook his hand twice since he made it, but you can't see this because we're not obviously filming this.
I love how he accepted it was a good point, just took a suck of his lollipop that he's taken from the sweet packet and then went back to his default position.
It's the best thing I've heard all night, to be fair. I don't think the coach has ever fully fancied Kobbie Mainoo right from the start. I mean, I was hearing this last November when he arrived, and I was hearing things like he's got a lot to do to get into the eye line of his manager. It's a good question, and I don't know the answer to it, unfortunately.
That's a good job I do, Andy.
Go on.
No,
I'm going to make a good point again.
Listen, I'm on a roll here, maybe. Listen, you can correct me if I'm wrong and apologise.
Make your lollipop again just before you do it. There you go.
Off air, because I know that producer Ollie will be fuming at me that I've even got a sweet in my mouth. Sorry if that's an awkward listen for people. I got to, it's acceleration, right? So I think Amorim thinks that he doesn't have the acceleration, the burst of speed to get away from players in that number 8 position, and this has kind of become an accepted thing at Carrington, I guess. But then you look at Kobbie, and I do think that he's up and down the pitch. We've seen him sort of struggle to cover those long distances under Erik ten Hag, for example. But when you compare it to Bruno Fernandes, he doesn't really have a burst of speed, does he? Casemiro certainly doesn't. Ugarte, no. So it's kind of funny, concept to me. So I just, and it's really interesting. You mentioned you hearing that when he first came into the club, because remember those first training sessions that we got shown, and it was him and Kobbie, and he was kind of giving Kobbie quite a lot of instructions, and you're sort of thinking, okay, this could be a real nice synergy here. And clearly, maybe it was the other thing. Maybe it was he really wanted to get into him because he wasn't doing what he wanted. But I'd love. He obviously gets very frustrated at the continuing questions from journalists about it, and given the history that he has at the club as an academic player in the FA Youth Cup and the FA Cup final, I think he just kind of doesn't really see. I think he thinks he has to take players at face value in terms of what he judges them as and pick them accordingly.
You said previously he doesn't look at faces. He said he just wants to win. This is my interpretation of what he's trying to say. He's not going to try and give preferential treatment to academy players just because they're academy players. He absolutely needs wins because he finished 15th place last season, didn't win the Europa League final, and the best way to win games is to use Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro as long as possible. Mainoo's strengths are he's a press resistant ball carrier, and he's pretty good late arrivals into final third, and he's got a good shot on him. He takes loads of touches on the ball in central areas. Amorim's central midfielders, not just at United, but also at parts throughout his time at Sporting Lisbon as well, minimal touches, 2 or 3 touches, and then loads of long passes into the channels for your wing backs, for your number 10s to chase. Mainoo's not the best long passer. Amorim's also talked about the fact that Mainoo's positioning isn't the best, which is to be expected because he's 21. Is he even 21?
20.
He's 20.
20, yeah.
See? And this is I think I've said before, this is the thing that I personally need to get better at, in that I keep imagining the player Mainoo's going to be at 26 and going, oh God, he's going to be United captain, he's going to do all these amazing things. Whereas Amorim keeps looking to the rest of us and going, no, he is 20 and he has 4 or 5 things that can't work in this team. And the problem now is, well, how is he supposed to fix them if he doesn't get any playing time? How is Mainoo supposed to understand every single section of where he's supposed to be standing in a Premier League paced game if he doesn't get any minutes outside of 10-15 minutes the second half of games when United are winning? But that's happened too often because United aren't always winning in the last 10-15 minutes of games. So we are at impasse. I think the best place for Mainoo to go is to go to another club which does have space for someone who has these abilities.
I think it looks really bleak for him because Manchester United's priorities now are players in his position, or roughly in his position.
Does he just get pushed down a different queue?
He's got to play football. Clubs can be selfish in terms of stockpiling talent, and there's so many conflicting messages here. United want their money on the pitch. You know, that is definitely a feeling within the club. He's a very popular player. I was actually struck when we did them live shows how popular the reaction he appeared to be by the
especially around here.
Yeah,
Manchester show especially.
Yeah, but even in London, really, I was I was struck by it. Don't think he's been brilliant when he's come on this season.
By the way, it's not that long ago that he was scoring in the FA Cup final against Manchester City, and I know Alejandro Garnacho was the other one, but them two, and obviously Mainoo's still here, offered real brightness, real hope in some pretty dark moments. So I think people do feel wedded to that. I think that's a big reason why there is a frustration he's not in the team more, and the quality that they saw in him as well during that time. Do we know how Kobbie's taken it? Has there been much said about how he's reacted to not playing much?
I think he's continued to train well. I mean, he wanted to leave. That shows that he's not happy. I don't get a sense of him being a bad egg in the dressing room, a bad apple, like I have had with other players in the last decade. See his dad going to matches. I've not seen him when he's not been playing as much. I don't know how good Kobbie's going to be. I honestly can't answer that. I don't think anybody knows that. Don't know how much he's worth. Don't know how much his wages should be. The cup final was brilliant. The goal at Wolves, hopefully can repeat that again, was brilliant. I don't know whether you lads have spoke to him. My interactions with him seems like a level-headed lad.
I've interviewed him a couple of times. That's exactly how I find him.
Done incredibly well. Absolutely loves Manchester United. So it's sad. It's sad that Manchester United's not the best place for a youth player. One thing that's going through my head a lot is Manchester United, youth, courage, success. This result, not too many youth players. I don't think they were very courageous. Wasn't a successful result. Manchester United as I know it, and Manchester United as older, and I mean that with no disrespect, Manchester United fans explain to me these are the things that are important about Manchester United. They're not really there right now in this season, or at least they're not there anywhere near the quantity I'd like. I'm not seeing anywhere near enough conversation about the academy players in a way I would like personally. Amorim has his own prerogative and says, well, I need to win. Who cares about if I'm bringing through certain players? That's a horrible paraphrasing of what he said. Please forgive me there. In terms of courage, okay, there are injuries. It can be hard to be really courageous and play front-footed football when you don't necessarily have all your attacking options. However, there's this horrible gnawing feeling in me and going, there's surely ways we can make tweaks here. There's surely ways we can play on the front foot here. I don't know.
But he does need to win. Otherwise, it ain't going to be good for him either. He does need to get the team into Europe. He has given chances to young players last year. Chido Obi, give Chido a chance, brilliant. He's scoring 62 goals in every 18 to 21 goals. And the enthusiasm for that happening evaporates within 2 matches when they realise it's not Lionel Messi Mark II. Is that good for the development of the player, or is it bad for the development of the player? You know, it's double-edged, and there is a tendency for fans, throw them in, they can't be any worse. They can be a lot worse. I'd love to see Shea Lacey. I mean, I've been asking about him the last couple of days. Told you, real talent. Said to me that he'll be better the better team he's playing him. Physically is always an issue with younger players. I'd love to see him come on. There are some greatest moments in this club, even when the chips have been down, have been when young players have been thrown on. Fergie's fledglings in '89, I think it was, United were worse than they are now. And these lads came on, and they didn't end up becoming big stars, but it gave us what we all hope. We want to go home smiling. It's entertainment. We want to be thrilled. Touching on some of the values that you said, there's not really been enough of that this season. So when you get pockets of it, you get really excited. There should be more. For a club of United stature, there should be more moments than what we're seeing. If you're doing a highlights video of this season, not that any such thing exists anymore, you ain't flooded with choices.
They should have thrown the kitchen sink at them.
Well done. Feel better?
No.
Should we cheer ourselves up a little bit? Russell got in touch on email, Laurie. If you think this is bad, we've basically equalled the equivalent games points total for the month of December. So the games that Manchester United have this December are West Ham at home, Wolves away, Bournemouth at home, Aston Villa away, Newcastle at home, and Wolves at home. And Russell's email says, those 6 fixtures last season, United took 1 point and didn't score.
Wow.
So we've actually bettered the equivalent results already.
Have we? Well, what have we got now?
Well, a draw against West Ham, scoring 1 goal.
Oh, sorry, right, okay, misunderstood. Okay. Oh, right. Okay, come on then.
Survived December last year.
Well, that's not actually December, it's the equivalent fixtures from last season for this December.
Okay, yeah, I like it. So they just need to go to Wolves and win, and then they just need to play at home to Bournemouth and win, and go to Aston Villa and win, and play at home to Newcastle on Boxing Day at 8 PM and win, and then have Wolves again at home and win. That is 6 wins on the bounce. I can see it clear as day. Thank you very much.
Problem is, I saw West Ham at home and Everton at home as wins as well, especially when Everton went down to 10 men after 10 minutes. Let's talk about Wolves, because we've just been given the 10-minute warning. Speaking of 10 minutes, by the security lads here, it is like old times after all. We're going to be escorted off the premises. Wolves has to be better, Andy, doesn't it? Where are you going?
It does have to be better. United need to win at Wolves. When the last time Wolves won a game? It's probably against us last season, wasn't it?
Probably.
They're really, really struggling. Bournemouth, who come next, are also struggling. Villa, who come after that, are not struggling. They're the team who are getting a decent...
That sums up this season, that they are beginning to be on the edge of a title challenge, and they didn't score for the first 5 games of the season.
Yeah. It's a mad season, isn't it? And isn't it a shame that United are not taking advantage of that?
That's the frustration.
Yeah. I've not watched a lot of Wolves this season. You've probably watched them more than me.
Bad. They are really bad. They're a very good example of, okay, yeah, you've sold some of your best players and you've tried to reinvest it in younger, cheaper players. Whoop. Down the table you go. I was on Sunday Supplement with Jackie Oatley, and she described them as beyond abysmal at times. She's a Wolves fan, so that's all I can say about that.
Nothing like kicking your own, to be fair. Joao Gomes has been a player who's been linked with Manchester United as a midfield option for January. He's suspended for this game, so he won't get his audition that so many others have had. Feels like almost a weekly segment, this.
Yeah.
He won't get it.
Wolves were also bottom of the table last December. Remember when there was that bit of a spat against Ipswich Town, and then they just turned and surged up the table. I don't think they're going to do the same this year. The record is atrocious. United have just got to win that game, haven't they? There's a lot of frustration after this draw tonight. I think if United didn't beat Wolves, that would increase even more. But what does that even mean? We just go, rah, rah, rah. You know what I mean? Pressure. The pressure's on. What does that mean?
Well, do you know what would be worse? Do you know what would be worse? Would be just shrugging your shoulders.
Apathy.
Yeah.
Not caring.
Yeah.
Not going to the games.
And as a United fan, we've had that at times, haven't we, in recent years? I mean, is there a danger that this becomes the same?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I don't think there's enough. I don't know. It feels like a film we've seen before, really. Okay, it's not as bad as last season, but it's sort of, marginally better, really. Maybe you can say, well, what else did you expect from that base level to then, was it really going to rocket fuel with a few new signings?
They've halved the league rank, in theory, going from 15th to 8th even at this point.
That's a nice way to look at it. I mean, at one point, maybe just to flag a little bit is, and I know he's going to go off to AFCON anyway, but Brian Mbeumo's, the promise that we saw from him at the start of the season, he's clearly a quality player, but, the last couple of games, he's been taking strange decisions, I think. So there was that one in the second half when Bruno's put him through and he kind of checks back inside and you're thinking that's exactly the same as the Brighton goal. Just go and put the ball in the back of the net, and he takes a dive. I thought it was a penalty, to be fair. I thought I was, I'm going to go at my mate Andrew Kitchen again, but
the knives are out.
I've laughed too hard at that. That's really annoying. That just shows how desperate I am for some light at the end of this tunnel. And he takes a dive. So I would like him to sharpen up and do better in the game that he's definitely going to play at Wolves. Is this the one that...
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, and Cunha as well, going back there.
Yeah, big time. I mean, it's funny, wasn't it? Because we heard last season from people that know Wolves that were saying that he sometimes, even when he was in the team, it maybe was too much of attracting the ball, and then when he came out of the team and he was suspended, they kind of functioned more as a team and they kept winning. They were quite pleased that they did because they showed that it wasn't just all about him. So I think he's going to go there with a point to prove. He obviously didn't really have an effective game tonight after his 2 games out with an injury. Let's see. I think they do. I think United have missed that kind of line breaking ability that he's got with the ball, but it needs to be better than it was against West Ham.
Very quick note: David Ornstein put water on the speculation about Joao Gomes going to Manchester United, and I believe you added to that in your deal sheet earlier. So Joao Gomes to Manchester United, perhaps not this. I know he's suspended, but perhaps not at the front of this audition for central midfield, right?
Yeah, my understanding was that I wouldn't expect them to go for talks in January with him, meaningfully. Let's see. I just think their focus, to my mind, is those players that we've discussed. Elliot Anderson. I'm just nodding at Andy there, seeing if he's going to say anything else.
Got a message today off a fella who I don't know saying he knows Elliot Anderson's dad. It was from Whitley Bay. And
Geordie.
All right, we've got to go now.
The listeners will think that's an absolute scam that we've just tried to stop this point from being made, but honestly, we are getting chucked out.
I know we are. I think there will be several suitors for Elliot Anderson, so I might have to repeat my... Not tonight. But
I think we could just get you now to record a line that any time Elliot Anderson is brought up, we could just replay it, because I think we've got to that point.
If you join Manchester United, you'll never regret it.
Thank you, Andy. I've not regretted doing this podcast again with you three in the press box. It's been nice to go back to the old school. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you've stuck with us on YouTube. In fact, we need to get a picture to be able to put up on YouTube for something for people to look at while this podcast is playing out. Get in touch with us anyway, devilspod@theathletic.com. Thank you for your company. Thanks to every single one of you who's been sharing your lists of podcasts from this season, and it's been a pleasure to see us featuring on so many of those. Thank you for your support as always, and we'll speak to you again after Wolves. Whatever happens, we're there again. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of Talk of the Devils. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you've not done already. Like the video and also get involved in the comments too, and click the bell to make sure that you never miss an episode with myself, Andy Mitten, Carl Anker and Laurie Whitwell. There's also our social channels @TOT Devils on Instagram, X and TikTok. Thanks for watching.